What is going on, everyone? My name is Andy. Welcome back to another FPL video. In this one, it's the Game Week 20 preview. So I'm going to go through some of the key topics and questions that you put to me, basically like a bit of a Q&A, because we don't have very long until the next deadline. So I need to get this video up as soon as possible. So there's stuff like early wildcards, first wildcards, Arsenal replacements, all that kind of stuff is covered in this video. So if you do enjoy it, give it a like, hit that subscribe button if you're new around here. Don't forget to check out my 888 article if you haven't already. There's a link to that in the description below where I go over some of the points for Game Week 20 as well in written format. Otherwise, let's jump into it. Okay, so the first one is about RAMSDALE replacement. So he's very heavily owned in the community. He's obviously been really good as well for those of us that went for him early. So who are the best goalkeeper options to cover or to replace RAMSDALE, right? So you don't necessarily have to sell him. You could sell your second goalkeeper instead and keep RAMSDALE. You might want to do that to prepare for double game weeks, to have a bit of rotation. Like, it's not a bad thing to have two playing keepers the way things are at the moment. It's all going to depend on your team, right? For my team, I've probably got to make too many transfers already to sell my second goalkeeper. I just don't have enough money for the transfers that I want to make. So I'm probably going to sell RAMSDALE. But if you are in a position where you could sell your second keeper instead, that might be the better option. I'm thinking Pickford rather than De Gea, given potential Henderson rotation. United also face Wolves in Game Week 21 who have COVID cases. The interesting thing on the COVID thing is, that is true, obviously, but Everton are the reason that their game got cancelled against Burnley in Game Week 19. So is there anything to definitely say that Everton will play in Game Week 20? That would be my first worry. If the fixtures go ahead, then yes, Everton's fixtures are pretty damn good. And I suppose for Man United, if you were going to go for a defensive option, if you could try and figure out whether Shaw or Tellers was first choice, or even if Dalot is definitely first choice, there are kind of slightly cheaper entries into the Man United team in defence that might be better than De Gea. With Everton, I just don't think you're picking any of their defenders, whereas Pickford could be an option. Newcastle, Brighton, Norwich, Villa, Newcastle, Leeds, Southampton away. They've got Leicester at home and Burnley away that need to be rearranged. That could happen in Game Week 21 and 22. So they could potentially have two double game weeks very soon. But obviously we don't know, and we're probably not going to know before the Game Week 20 deadline, which is a bit annoying. So Pickford is an option, but I don't think Henderson is a big issue. I agree, there is more chance that Henderson plays than Begovic plays for Everton. But Ranić has said that De Gea is first choice. There's also rumours that Henderson's going to look to leave as well to get a first team spot. Now, Man United might try and play him a bit more so that he doesn't do that. But De Gea has been said to be the first choice. He's been first choice all season as well. So I would expect him to continue to start. So I do think De Gea is the better option. He's playing in a better team. I would say probably a better defence as well. And not only did Everton's game get called off as a COVID case, they also had a lot of injuries as well. So I can see the appeal to Pickford. The fixtures are probably a little bit better. We just saw Pickford's fixtures there. These are Man United's. I mean, Man United's decent fixtures go all the way down to 27. And the ones they have to rearrange are also really good. Brentford away and Brighton at home. So I'm going to stick with De Gea. I've got to be honest, I don't think there's really many other options, to be honest. Like, if you had a little bit less money, like 4.6 million, you could go for Sanchez. He and RAMSDALE rotate quite nicely. I think Brighton have got, let me just bring this up. I can't remember if Brighton have had, there's so many called off games now, I can't remember who's had what. Brighton have got 3 games to rearrange, although they are quite tough. But Brighton and Arsenal rotate all right, so you could go for Sanchez instead. And the only other option is Ederson. They've got no double game weeks to come as things stand right now. That will probably happen later on in the season. He's quite expensive at 6 million, so he's probably more of a replacement for RAMSDALE than a cover, or then to cover for your second keeper. But Man City defense is pretty good. If you wanted to go Cancelo plus another defender and just not have Diaz or someone like that to leave space for Reguilon, Trent, Dalot, etc., then you could look at Ederson instead. So De Gea is probably the front runner for me. I get the appeal of Pickford, but I don't think I would go there. And if I wanted someone else, it would probably be Ederson. If I was going for cover and I wanted to keep the price down, probably be Sanchez. Like, I'm looking at the list of goalkeepers. I don't think there's too many other options, to be honest. Some people really quickly have asked whether you could just play with 10. You could just play with 10 and not have a goalkeeper. My only worry is with RAMSDALE. He comes back to Man City at home, Spurs away, then 2 good fixtures, then a blank, another good fixture, then another blank. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 7 games. You've got, I would say, 1, 2, probably not good for clean sheets, and 2 of the others are blanks. So for me, I haven't really been looking for a reason to sell Ramsdale, but I think what's happened this week is probably now a reason to do it, or at least to cover him off. So I wouldn't play with 10, I don't think. I would probably switch the goalkeeper because there's better options with better fixtures in at least the medium term. You can always get Ramsdale back, even though you're going to have to pay a little bit more now. Okay, so a lot of people have asked me to do wildcard drafts and stuff like that. I'm going to be honest, there just is not enough time to do a whole video about wildcards. And to be honest, I haven't done one for weeks anyway, so Game Week 20 shouldn't be any more special, really, apart from the fact that, obviously, it's the last time you can use it. So the question came in, must-haves and must-avoids for us later wildcarders. So this is for the first wildcard, so it has to be used before Game Week 20. So before tomorrow at 1:30 PM UK time, you have to have used your first wildcard. You should definitely do that, even if you are only going to make a few changes. So I'm just going to go through this quickly. I'm not going to do a whole draft. This is my team, obviously, with all the players removed. I would definitely offload my Chelsea defenders. Yes, Brighton at home is a good fixture, where there could definitely be a clean sheet, but after that, it's pretty rubbish, right? So I would definitely take that as a chance to get rid of my Chelsea players. I would definitely have Trent. I would definitely have Cancelo, so I keep those two in. I'm not really sure out of the rest of my players how many I would definitely keep, right? So I wish I still had my wild card, to be honest. But Bowen looks like a pretty good option for 6.5. Good value, good fixtures for West Ham coming up as well. I think, only Man United away in Game Week 23 is like a bad one. They've got one game to rearrange against Norwich. It'd be really nice if it was in Game Week 22. I don't know how likely that is to happen, but that would be an unreal double game week. But either way, Bowen is a pretty good option. Up front, it gets a little bit trickier because you've got Antonio. There's not too many other forwards around that price, so you could think about keeping him. I don't know if I'd have Ronaldo on wildcard. I really don't. Burnley at home, Wolves at home, just not... They are good. They're okay fixtures, right? This fixture run is pretty good, but he's so much money. I just think when Salah's back, people are just going to go without Ronaldo again. So I probably would have Salah in my team. Other picks that I would look at, I'm pretty sure I would have two Spurs players, Son and Reguilon. And I would probably also, if Dalot starts again tonight against Newcastle, depending on when you're watching this, I'd probably have Dalot in there. And I'd also probably have James Maddison, just because Leicester have got 2 games to rearrange, and they've got in 21 it's Norwich at home, and 22 it's Burnley away, and Brighton at home's okay as well. He is probably a short-term pick, and you really are relying on the double game week for him. But he's playing really well and he's quite cheap. So as a short-term option, he's pretty good. Long-term, probably have to get rid of him, right? Liverpool away, West Ham at home, Wolves away, Chelsea away is pretty bad. But James Maddison is someone I would consider. And I'd probably go for David De Gea in goal. So that's kind of a bit of a core. I'll let you figure out the rest. But yeah, I'd use this as a chance to get rid of my Chelsea defenders. I don't know if I would have a Man City attacker, to be honest. I think Foden's good for this week, but I might look to offload him after that. So you could go for a second Man City defender instead, Diaz, or maybe Edison if you wanted to spend a bit more. And probably I would go for Broja as well, just because I think he's playing quite regularly at the moment. He's quite cheap as well, and he's decent when he plays as a backup option up front. So that's probably what I would do for the wild card. Otherwise, I don't know. I think you just have to build for the real short term, like the next 2 to 3 game weeks. Think about that double game week potentially in 21, 22. Go and check out Ben Crellin on Twitter. And yeah, just go from there. All right, so best Lacazette replacements. Antonio Calvert-Lewin, I should say, or Broja. Already have Bowen, so a West Ham double-up could be trouble. I got to be honest, out of those 3 options, I think Antonio is the best option. Okay, a double-up maybe leaves you liable if West Ham have a game called off, I get it. But we can't just have single players from teams, right? I just don't think that's necessarily the way to play going forward. Dominic Calvert-Lewin... I just feel like it's too early, right? I get it. Let's just bring him up, right? We know how good the fixtures are. I would love a fit and firing Calvert-Lewin with penalties as well in my team. This is a really good run of fixtures. Newcastle at home, as long as that goes through. Brighton, Norwich, Villa, Newcastle, Leeds. There's no real bad fixtures for the next few weeks. And again, they've got those 2 games, Leicester and Burnley away, to rearrange for a double. But this is a guy, like, I have to keep saying this, he's only played 3 games all season. Are they really just going to chuck him in? Bearing in mind, we haven't even seen him in a squad yet. There was all that talk about the fact he'd be back into the squad for Boxing Day. But that never happened because the game got called off. So would he have started? Would he have been on the bench? If he was on the bench, would he have got 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15, 20, 30? We just don't know. if he plays against Newcastle and plays like 30, 35 minutes, looks fresh, looks fine, looks fit, then maybe you consider him for Brighton. But the gap between those two games again is like he plays on Thursday. You've got the 31st and the 1st off, and he's back playing again on the Sunday, like 3 days later, like 2 full days rest. I just don't see him playing those 2 games 90 minutes each time. And you can say he's good enough to get points in like 20 minutes, 30 minutes, but that's not a player you want, right? So I think Calvert-Lewin is a great idea, but I just don't think we can go there just yet. So I'd probably avoid him. I think if you want to go cheap, Broja probably is the one. I think Josh King, we shouldn't forget about him, but obviously we need to make sure the Watford game is on against West Ham. But he could be an option too. Pukki as well. Like, I know people will laugh, but Norwich's fixtures aren't that bad. So again, as a 90-minute man, penalties, etc., all the stuff you've heard me say before. Like Palace, Leicester, Everton, Watford, Palace again. Like, they're not amazing fixtures, but they're not that bad either. So as a cheap option, you could look at him. Otherwise, really, it's just Callum Wilson, I would say. My only worry about him, coming back to this screen again as well, because he's someone I didn't really talk too much about in my team selection this morning. So Man United, that's in Game Week 19. So then they've got Everton, Southampton, Watford, Leeds, Everton again, then Villa. Their run of fixtures up until about Game Week 28 is pretty good. They got no fixtures to rearrange, so no double game weeks. And he did get, I think this was a rest against Liverpool. So I don't know if that's just the type of game it was, or because it was games in quick succession, they just didn't want to risk him. But that's my only worry. Is he the kind of player that because of this quick turnaround again, they're going to rest in one of those games? So I actually think Antonio probably is the best option unless you want to go cheap. If you've already got Antonio, you've already got a cheap forward and you want someone else, then Callum Wilson could be the one. I'm not saying don't go with Calvert-Lewin. You just have to accept there's a bit of a risk. I think what would be really nice if he has a couple of minutes in the next couple of games, then has that little bit of a break in the start of January, and then we get on him. Because the fixture run is good for a long time. So I'm not saying complete no to Calvert-Lewin, but he's only played 3 games all season. It's going to take time to get back up to speed, you'd think. All right, this is SAKA replacements, but you could take this as Martinelli and Smith Rowe replacements as well. With Martinelli in particular, and probably Smith Rowe for some of you, obviously, you would have gotten quite cheap. So you could keep them as squad players, but they do come back to 2 pretty poor fixtures, and they got a few blanks coming up as well. So I do think it's probably a good time to sell. Like Smith Rowe owners, like I'm not even joking around or like, you know, saying he's my arch nemesis and stuff like that. Like for me, he is a bad pick, right? Anyone that's got him, really, I would say lucky to have got as many returns. Like you can't keep coming off the bench and scoring with pretty much every shot you have. There's been a bit of fortune there. You should absolutely take it. You should absolutely be happy with it. But he is a bad pick because he is not first choice right now. He probably, the annoying thing is for Smith Rowe owners is he probably would have played against Wolves because it was a quick turnaround. But Lacazette, Saka, Martinelli and Odegaard, right now, unless things change, to me is the first choice attack. Right, Smith Rowe has now missed too many games being on the bench, and he's not going to keep this up. He's not going to keep scoring off the bench. Of course, he might still do it for like the next 4, 5, 6 games. But you've got to think at some point soon that just stops. So I think he needs to go as well. So in this particular question, it said Bowen seems the obvious choice, but he's a rotation risk for the next game. He is, I guess, because he's just played. But he's also a player that like he plays a lot. Like there's very few games that he's actually missed. He did play, I think he played in the Carabao Cup as well, which isn't ideal, but he plays 90 minutes quite often. It's only this Man City away game where they played a 3 at the back, so they used that as a chance to rest him. I think they played Ben Rama in that game. He's played every single game this season. He's about as nailed on as you can get. So yeah, okay, there's a bit of a chance that he misses this game out because they played on, they played on Sunday and they're playing again on Tuesday. So there really isn't, was it Sunday actually? Yeah, of course. Yeah, Sunday and then Tuesday. So there really isn't much rest. So he is probably a rotation risk. But you are right. He probably is the best replacement. I just, for the sake of one game of rotation, I don't think I would go for Gallagher instead. That just seems way too kind of short-term thinking. And Lucas Moura, I know, made me look like an idiot. But I did say on the deadline stream, he could, I think I said this anyway, he could play and do really, really well in Game Week 19, and I still wouldn't consider him going forward. I just think his underlying numbers are just not that exciting, and I still don't think he's completely guaranteed to play. Let's not forget, if we're saying that Bowen's a rotation risk, Lucas Moura probably is as well, given that he didn't play the game before, right? Dele Alli did, so he could come back in. And looking at Lucas Moura's underlying stats, so they are slightly up on last year, but 0.37, just, I don't know, it just doesn't seem that exciting. And also, once you've got him in, it does block another Spurs player. Now, realistically, even if you were to wildcard right now, I don't think most teams can afford Kane, Son and Reguilon, but maybe you want to keep that option open. So I actually think that Bowen is the best option. I think you take the risk that he doesn't get rotated against Watford, because going forward, you're going to want him instead. So he's probably the one I go for. And to be honest, I don't really think, unless you're going to go for Maddison, there's too many other options. And the problem with Maddison is you bring him in this week, he's got a poor fixture, right? They're playing Liverpool. He's good for the short term after that, but this week I'm just not sure is the right time to bring him in. We shouldn't forget about Rafinha, but obviously Leeds are not playing this week, but longer term he could be good. And we've just talked about Everton's fixtures for Calvert-Lewin. Demarai Gray could be good as well. But I think I would probably go Bowen if I didn't already own him. So is now the best time to bring in Son for Arsenal players specifically? I mean, it's just a good time anyway. I think it doesn't have to be for Arsenal players, but if you can afford it, like that's my plan right now. I still haven't put it through yet, and I'm still considering whether to do it tonight. I mean, with the current climate of FPL, it does seem absolutely crazy to consider doing early transfers, but I've got zero in the bank with the moves that I want to make. But is now the best time to bring in Son for Arsenal play? Yeah. So Spurs have plenty of games in hand, lots of decent fixtures. The short answer is Son is a good option. Right? I don't really see any real argument to say he's not. He's quite expensive, I guess, at 10.5 million, but Southampton away and Watford away are both good fixtures. He and Kane both come off early against Palace, so you'd think they'd play again. Like, those two are about as nailed on as it comes. They very rarely miss games. They obviously played on Sunday as well, just like everyone else. They're playing again on Tuesday, so it is a quick turnaround, but I would expect Son to play, and he'd probably come off early if Conte can, right? They are doing pretty well under Conte, so you'd hope they'd get ahead and then be able to rest them. And the Watford game looks really good. And I've said this a few times, maybe I'll go for someone else, I don't know. But that seems to me like a week you could go against Salah. This week, probably not, right? If you've got Salah, you captain him against Leicester and you just laugh at people like me that don't have him. But for Game Week 21, when Liverpool played Chelsea, let's see who Chelsea have got available, right? If they've got Kante, if he's fit, it doesn't look like he will be for Game Week 20, but if he is for 21, and they've got Kovacic fit as well, that's a different Chelsea team to when they're missing. And so Liverpool might not have an easy game with it. I'm not saying Liverpool won't score, but Chelsea did really well against them in the previous fixture this season, even when they went down to 10 men as well. If you remember, Reece James got sent off. So Watford away for Son feels like a pretty good fixture for captaincy. Arsenal at home's not great, but that is a week where they would probably have a double game week because they've got 3 fixtures to rearrange. They've got to do them sooner rather than later, because you don't want to get to later on in the season and suddenly have loads of matches to do at once. So there could be a double that week. Chelsea away is not great, but then they get to play Southampton again. So I don't know if Son is like a long-term hold, but I do think he's very good in the short term. So yeah, short answer is it time for Son? Yeah, I think if you can afford it and it works for your transfers, why not? All right, this is probably one that we can revisit next week for actual Game Week 21, because we really, before we lock this in as a strategy, we really need to know the fixtures for Game Week 21 and 22. Are there going to be double game weeks? If so, who are they? And are there teams that have double game weeks in 21 and 22, which could happen, right? There is a chance of that, but we don't know for sure right now. So, yeah, what are my views on wildcard Game Week 21 and then Bench Boost 22? So this would be your second wildcard, right? So this would be using it very early. Now, I don't necessarily dislike using the second wildcard early. I did it last year and it worked out fine. I think this is the kind of scenario where it could definitely work out well. Like last year, the reason it worked so well, you've probably heard me talk about this a million times before, was because you had a blank game week, but Man City and Man United were both playing that game week. They then had a double game week the following week, and there was also you could also put a bench boost together. And Man City and Man United also had good long-term fixtures as well, or at least medium-term. So if there are teams that have a double in 21 and a double in 22, and you can put a team together that covers both and has a good bench boost and has good at least medium or short to medium-term fixtures so that you don't have to completely change the team straight away, then I think there is a possible reason to do it. The obvious caveats to that, or the obvious kind of counters to that, are Game Week 21 is not very far away, obviously. We've got Game Week 20 deadline is Tuesday the 28th of December. Game Week 21 deadline is Saturday the 1st of January. There's absolutely nothing that says all these postponements are suddenly going to clear up by Game Week 21. So straight away that could hurt your team. You've just used your wild card and suddenly a bunch of fixtures are postponed. But also if you're going to bench boost in 22, you want all 15 players to play. And how sure are you going to be of that? Like the Game Week 22 deadline is the 14th of January. How much of the stuff that's happening right now, like with COVID positive cases and postponements, is going to have stopped by the middle of January? I don't know is the honest answer. What I will say is last year, the same thing was happening. We didn't have quite as many postponements, but we did have postponements because of positive COVID cases. And people... That was one of the reasons people were put off wildcarding early, because they said that could keep happening. But what had happened at that point when we hit the wildcard was the amount of postponements has started to slow down. So if we see some slowdown for Game Week 21, and again, it's a big decision to make right this early on, and you want to take that risk for 22, you could do it. But that is the risk. That is the risk. If everything falls into place, fixture-wise, you're able to do that bench boost, like I said, then I don't mind it as a strategy, and I might consider it myself because I feel like my own personal team is just a bit all over the place right now. There's lots of transfers I need to make. Game Week 21 doesn't look great. Game Week 23 doesn't look great because of the players I've got, and I don't have unlimited transfers, so it's hard to kind of change everything at once. So I am tempted to early wildcard, but Game Week 21 is very soon. So I'm not going to say anything now whether we should do it or not. We'll know more hopefully by Game Week 21 when the fixtures are locked in. But there are massive risks with doing it this early. But it's worth discussing because it might change your transfer for this week, right? If you get set on doing it, you might change the player you bring in this week. I would try and keep your options open. Don't lock yourself into doing it, because it might not be worth it and it might be too risky, but keep an open mind because it also might be worth it. You just never know. So there we go. Hopefully we covered enough stuff in that one. If you did enjoy it, please do give it a like and hit that subscribe button. I will be back tomorrow for the deadline stream. So the deadline for Game Week 20 is 1:30 p.m. Tuesday, right? So it's another kind of mid after or early afternoon deadline. So I'll be live around 12ish, same as I was for Boxing Day, to kind of bring it on home and decide what moves and stuff we're making, right? Like I said, I'm probably going to do a hit this week and bring in, so just to show you again from the team selection, I'm probably going to take out Lacazette for Broja, Saka to Son, and I'm probably going to do Ramsdale to De Gea. I'm probably going to take a -8 because I just feel like that's what my team needs this week. It sucks. I don't really want to do it, but I've kind of been forced into it with that Arsenal postponement, and that is the risk with being tripled up at the moment. But there we go. I'll leave that one there. Thank you very much for watching. Hopefully it was useful. I'll see you tomorrow on the deadline stream. Give this one a like, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you again soon.